The war began on a Tuesday. Humanity had known about aliens for exactly 2 years, 3 months, and 17 days. The first ships appeared near Jupiter in 2157, massive and elegant vessels that dwarfed anything humans had built. They came in peace, they said. They represented something called the Galactic Concord, 7 ancient species united in harmony and exploration. Elaine Summers stood at the window of Space Station Liberty, watching Earth rotate slowly below. At 42, she had never imagined becoming humanity's primary ambassador to an alien alliance. The United Earth Navy had assigned her the role because of her background in both military strategy and xenolinguistics. Right now she wished they had chosen someone else. "They're early," said a voice behind her. Elaine turned to see her brother Alan adjusting his lab coat. 5 years younger than her, he had the same dark hair and brown eyes, though his were magnified, behind thick glasses. "The Velhari are never early," Elaine replied. "Something's wrong." 3 Concord ships approached the station, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent material that seemed to shift colors as they moved. Not the diplomatic vessels Elaine had expected, but military craft. Her communicator buzzed. "Captain Summers," came the urgent voice of Lieutenant Greg Peters from the command center. "We're detecting energy buildup in the Concord vessels. Weapons signatures." Elaine felt her heart drop. "Full station alert. Contact Earth Defense immediately." Alan gripped her arm. "The research data. Get it and meet me at Bay 14. She snapped, already moving. The station shuddered as the first impacts hit. Emergency lights flashed on, bathing the corridor in red. Elaine ran, dodging panicked personnel. Her mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. The Concord had seemed so genuine, so interested in peaceful exchange. For 2 years they had shared technology, helped humans establish their first colonies beyond the solar system. What could have changed? In the command center, chaos reigned. Screens showed Concord ships emerging from hyperspace near Earth, near Mars, near the colonies at Proxima Centauri and Tau Ceti. "Status report," Elaine demanded. Lieutenant Peters looked up, his face pale. "The platforms they installed in Earth orbit, they're not communication relays, they're weapons. They've begun targeting major cities." Elaine steadied herself against a console. "Casualties?" "In the millions already." A nearby screen showed York engulfed in fire. Another displayed Sydney collapsing into the sea. Elaine forced herself to look away. "Admiral Porter was right," she whispered. Frank Porter, head of Earth Intelligence, had never trusted the Concord. He had maintained a secret fleet, hidden bases, preparations for a betrayal he insisted would come. Everyone had called him paranoid. "Captain, we've lost contact with Earth Defense Command," reported a young officer, her voice breaking. "What about the UES Defiant?" Elaine asked. "The experimental ship incorporated Concord technology but had been built in secret. Still in the dock, Captain. Systems ready." Elaine made her decision. "Evacuation order. All personnel to escape vessels." She keyed her personal communicator. "Alan, status?" "At Bay 14 with the data core." "Hurry, Elaine." The station shook again, more violently. Structural alarms wailed. "Go," she told her staff. "That's an order." Elaine ran through corridors that tilted at increasingly dangerous angles. Fires had broken out in the residential section. The life support warning echoed through remaining speakers. When she reached Bay 14, Alan stood by the airlock to the Defiant, clutching a metal case. "I got everything," he said as they hurried inside. "All the Concord technical data, the quantum interface schematics, everything." The Defiant was small compared to standard military vessels designed for speed and stealth rather than direct combat. Its bridge accommodated just 5 crew members, but today there were only 2. Elaine took the captain's chair while Alan strapped into the science station. Their training took over, hands moving across controls with practiced efficiency. "Release clamps," she ordered. The ship broke free from the dying station. Through the view screen, they watched Liberty break apart, secondary explosions tearing through its sections. "Picking up transmission," Alan said. It's from everywhere. The Concorde is broadcasting to all human settlements. The main screen displayed a tall, slender alien with pale blue skin and 4 arms. High Emissary Zex Talon of the Velhari, the Concorde's chief representative to humanity. People of Earth, the alien spoke, its voice eerily melodic despite the terrible message. The Galactic Concorde has determined that your species presents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. Your unusual neural patterns and adaptability to our technologies make you uniquely dangerous. You have been evaluated and found wanting. This is not war. This is correction. The transmission ended. Elaine and Alan sat in stunned silence as the Defiant accelerated away from Earth. Why? Alan finally whispered. We never threatened them. That's just it, Elaine replied. We didn't have to. She pulled up the classified reports from Admiral Porter's intelligence team. Look at these test results. Human neural patterns interface with their quantum technology at efficiency levels 300% higher than any Concorde species. We could operate their weapons better than they can. Alan stared at the data. They're afraid of what we might become. The Defiance. Sensors blared a warning. 3 Concorde pursuit vessels had detected them. Hold on, Elaine said, activating the experimental drive system. The stars blurred as the ship accelerated beyond anything humans had achieved before the Concorde's arrival. The alien vessels fell behind, unable to match the performance of their own technology in human hands. When they were clear, Elaine set course for the asteroid belt of Alpha Centauri. Admiral Porter had established a hidden base there, one of many contingencies for the event he had predicted. We need to find survivors, she said. Gather what's left of humanity. Alan looked at the case containing the technical data. And then? Elaine's eyes hardened as she watched Earth shrink on the rear monitors, clouds of debris now visible in orbit around humanity's burning homeworld. Then we teach the Concorde why they were right to fear us. The war that would make the galaxy whisper humanity's name had begun. 6 months passed since Earth fell. 6 months of running and hiding. 6 months of gathering survivors from broken colonies and attacked outposts. 6 months of grief turning slowly into rage. The asteroid belt of Alpha Centauri became home to what remained of humanity's free forces. Inside the largest asteroid, hollowed out decades ago as a secret military base, Admiral Elaine Summers stood before a map of known space. Red markers showed Concorde-controlled territory, Earth, Mars, the major colonies. Blue markers showed confirmed human resistance groups. There were far too few blue markers. Admiral, the new arrivals are settled in, said Lisa Morgan, approaching the map table. Elaine nodded. Lisa had been a civilian engineer before the attack. Now she commanded the scout ship Wolf, running dangerous missions to find survivors and gather intelligence. Her red hair was cut short for practicality, and a fresh scar ran along her jawline from a close call during her last mission. How many this time? Elaine asked. 87. Mostly scientists and engineers from the Europa research station. They managed to hide when the Concorde came. Elaine added another small blue marker to the map. Every life mattered now. The council. Meeting starts in 10 minutes, Lisa reminded her. Your brother says he has something important to show us. The council chamber was really just a large storage room with a round table placed in the center. Admiral Frank Porter sat there already, his weathered face showing new lines each day. He had escaped Earth with a few hundred soldiers and civilians, proving his hidden preparations weren't paranoia after all. Admiral Summers, he greeted Elaine with a nod. I hear your brother has made progress. That's what he tells me. Others filed in. The highest-ranking military officers left, leaders from civilian ships and representatives from each major survivor group. Last came Alan Summers, carrying a metal case similar to the one he had escaped with 6 months earlier. His eyes showed the strain of endless work, but also excitement. Once everyone settled, Elaine stood. This meeting of the Human Emergency Council is now in session. Dr. Summers has requested priority. Alan placed his case on the table and opened it. Inside was what looked like a metal headband with thin wires running through it. This, he said, is why the Concorde tried to wipe us out. He explained that the device was a quantum neural interface, reverse-engineered from Concord technology. The aliens used similar devices to control their ships and weapons. But what terrified them was discovering that humans could use them far more effectively. Our brains process quantum states differently, Alan said. Where they see linear patterns, we perceive multidimensional possibilities. What takes them years of training, we can do almost instinctively. He turned to Lisa. Remember that Concord scout ship you captured last month? I've modified it with this interface. I need a pilot willing to test it. Lisa stepped forward without hesitation. When do we start? Admiral Porter leaned forward. If this works, what are the military applications? Alan smiled for the first time in months. With these interfaces, one human pilot could potentially outperform an entire Concorde crew, and that's just the beginning. 2 days later, Elaine watched from the command center as Lisa prepared to test the modified Concorde ship, now renamed Starhawk. Screens showed Lisa in the pilot seat, the neural interface fitted to her head. Connection active, Alan reported, from a nearby console. Neural pattern stable. Lisa, how do you feel? Lisa's voice came through with an odd echo. Strange, like the ship is part of me. That's exactly right, Alan replied. Don't fight it. Let the connection deepen. The Starhawk moved away from the asteroid base, slowly at first, then with increasing confidence. Its movements became fluid, almost organic, nothing like the mechanical precision of conquered vessels. This is incredible, Lisa said. I'm not just flying it, I can feel every system, every power fluctuation. Alan watched the readings, nodding. Try the weapon systems. Target the practice drones. 6 remote drones moved into position. Under normal circumstances, hitting even one would be challenging in the chaos of an asteroid field. The Starhawk paused, then moved, a blur of impossible speed and precision. 6 shots. 6 drones destroyed. Silence fell over the command center. Time elapsed for target elimination. 1.7 seconds. A technician finally reported, voice shaking. Admiral. Porter turned to Elaine. With this technology, we have a chance. Later that night, Elaine found her brother in his lab, examining the test results. You did it, she said. Alan looked up, exhausted, but proud. This is just the first step. I'm detecting unusual patterns when humans use the interface. Emergent properties the Concorde never mentioned. If we could link multiple pilots. One thing at a time, Elaine cautioned. How long until we can outfit more ships? We've already started production. Within a month, we could have 10 vessels with neural interfaces. Elaine nodded. That's when we move from surviving to fighting back. A week later, Lisa led the first counterattack mission. With the Starhawk's superior response, she ambushed a Concorde supply ship near Tau Ceti. The aliens never knew what hit them. The captured ship contained not just supplies but valuable intelligence, the locations of prisoner camps on Earth. The pattern continued as more interface-equipped ships joined the fleet. Hit-and-run attacks, never staying to fight, taking what they needed and vanishing. The Concorde, accustomed to overwhelming force, struggled against an enemy they couldn't track or predict. 2 months into the campaign, Lisa returned from a mission with something new, an intact Concorde warship and its crew, captured rather than destroyed. During the debriefing, she explained, "We're learning to capture their ships intact. The Starhawk's neural interface lets me precisely target their engines and command centers. And there's something else. The more we use these systems, the more effective they become. It's like our brains are adapting, evolving to work with the technology." Admiral Porter reviewed the mission reports. The Concorde is reinforcing Earth's orbital defenses. They know we're coming eventually. Elaine studied the latest intelligence from the resistance on Earth. Admiral Porter's underground network had grown, mapping Concorde facilities, gathering information on their operations. Earth's population suffered under alien rule, forced to work in resource extraction operations feeding the Concorde war machine. It's time to take the next step, Elaine decided. Alan's latest innovation is ready for testing. She pulled up an image on the main screen. a more complex version of the neural interface with connections for multiple users. The Phoenix Protocol, she announced, linking our minds through the quantum field, allowing us to function as a single combat unit while maintaining individual initiative. Lisa examined the design. When do we test it? Tomorrow, Elaine replied. And if it works, we begin planning the liberation of Earth. Humanity had moved beyond desperate survival. The hunt had begun. The Phoenix Protocol changed everything. 2 years after the Concorde's attack, humanity had evolved from prey to predator. Inside the command ship Defiant, now upgraded and expanded, Elaine Summers watched the crew prepare for the most ambitious operation yet. 37 ships, each with neural-linked pilots, ready to strike at the heart of conquered power in the Proxima Centauri system. Phoenix link check complete. All vessels reporting optimal neural synchronization, reported Allen. From his station, his original interface design had advanced dramatically. Now thin, nearly invisible filaments attached to key points on each operator's head, connecting them to the quantum field and to each other. Elaine felt the familiar sensation as her mind expanded, touching others in the network. Lisa Morgan commanding the attack wing, Admiral Porter coordinating from their base, hundreds of others each maintaining individual control while sharing awareness. It no longer felt strange. It felt right. The Concorde has 200 ships, at Proxima, Lisa said through the link. Everyone saw the tactical display in their minds simultaneously. Their main fleet. They think numbers will save them, Elaine replied. They still don't understand what they're fighting. The human fleet moved through fold space, another technology they now operated better than its creators. They emerged directly behind the Concorde fleet in perfect attack formation. What followed wasn't just a battle. It was a symphony of destruction. The Phoenix-linked human ships moved as one organism with 37 bodies, anticipating Concorde maneuvers before they began. Where the aliens relied on rigid command structures and predetermined tactics, humans flowed like water, adapting instantly. From his underground bunker in North America, Steve Harris watched the battle telemetry with growing hope. Once an architect specializing in infrastructure design, he now led Earth's largest resistance cell. For 2 years, his people had mapped conquered occupation facilities, gathering intelligence on troop movements and defense systems. It's really happening, he said to his second-in-command, a former police officer named Karen Bell. They're winning. The display showed conquered ships falling one after another to the smaller human fleet. The aliens tried to adapt, to match the impossible coordination of their enemies, but couldn't replicate what came naturally to humans in the Phoenix network. After just 4 hours, the battle ended. The conquered fleet lay in ruins. Human casualties. 3 ships damaged, none destroyed. Send the signal, Steve told Karen. All resistance cells prepare for Operation Homecoming. The fleet is coming. On the Defiant, Elaine received the encrypted message from Earth. Admiral Porter confirms the resistance is ready, she told her crew. Phase 2 begins now. Allen studied the data from the battle. The Phoenix network exceeded all projections. The neural integration was 40% more efficient than our simulations predicted. Can we expand it further? Elaine asked. For Earth, we'll need every edge. The limiting factor isn't the technology anymore, Allen explained. It's our biology. The human brain can only process so many connections before efficiency drops. But we're already far beyond what the Concorde believed possible. Lisa joined them, her face showing the exhaustion that always followed a deep Phoenix link. Their interrogation is complete. We should talk about what we learned. During the battle, they had captured a Concorde command vessel with several high-ranking officers, including sub-emissary Calvor of the Vellery. Under questioning, he had revealed disturbing information. The Concorde Council has authorized planet-killer weapons, Lisa reported. 5 platforms, each capable of rendering a world uninhabitable. They're desperate enough to use them. Elaine's expression hardened. Targets? Earth. The colonies at Tau Ceti and Epsilon Eridani, and our bases if they can find them. Timeline? 2 weeks, maybe less. Elaine called an emergency council meeting. Representatives from all human factions gathered in person or through secure links. She laid out the situation. "We have confirmation that the Concord plans to deploy superweapons against our remaining worlds," she said. "Our timetable for Operation Homecoming must be accelerated." Steve Harris, joining via encrypted channel from Earth, spoke up. "My teams can be ready in 3 days. We've completed mapping all major Concord facilities. These are the primary targets," he continued, sending detailed schematics to everyone in the council. "The Concord has established 7 regional command centers, each controlling a sector of Earth. Their main headquarters is built underneath what used to be Geneva. That's where the planetary shield generator is located." Admiral Porter studied the information. "The shield is our biggest obstacle. Without taking it down, our fleet can't approach Earth." "My team has been infiltrating their security protocols," Steve said. "We can create a 30-minute window in the shield, but we'll need a distraction." Lisa leaned forward. "I have an idea about that." The plan came together quickly. In the 3 days that followed, every available ship was fitted with the latest Phoenix interfaces, pilots trained together, deepening their neural connections. Engineers worked around the clock to implement Lisa's modifications to the fleet's weapon systems. On the 4th day, Operation Homecoming began. The first phase looked like a frontal assault, the entire human fleet approaching Earth directly, making no attempt at stealth. Concord defenses responded exactly as expected, diverting power to the shields facing the incoming attackers. What they didn't anticipate was the new technology Allen had developed, fold point precision that allowed ships to emerge from fold space within planetary atmosphere. While the Concord focused on the obvious threat, 50 smaller vessels materialized at key points around the globe, directly above resistance targets. On the ground, Steve Harris gave the signal. Across the planet, resistance fighters emerged from hiding, striking at predetermined locations with perfect coordination. Many wore portable neural interfaces, linking them to the Phoenix network despite being planet-side. The Concord had never faced an enemy who could think and act as one across such distances. Their rigid command structure crumbled when communication centers were the first to fall. Without central direction, their forces reacted slowly, predictably. Inside the Geneva complex, Steve led the main assault team personally. They moved through the facility with uncanny precision, each member aware of the other's positions and actions through their Phoenix link. "Shield control room ahead," he reported through the network. "Heavy resistance, in orbit," Elaine directed, the battle from the Defiant. Through the Phoenix link, she experienced the ground assault as if she were there herself. "Lisa, your team is clear to deploy." Lisa's strike force broke through the thinning orbital defenses, heading for the shield generators. Their timing had to be perfect. The moment the resistance reached the control room, the external attack needed to hit. Steve's team breached the final door, engaging the Concord guards in close combat. 30 seconds to shield access, he reported, ducking behind a console as energy weapons fire scorched the wall behind him. In that moment, every human in the Phoenix network felt the same determination, the same resolve. This was for Earth, for survival, for everyone they had lost. The shield fell precisely on schedule. Lisa's team struck the external generators while Steve's team locked down the controls from inside. Across the planet, Concord forces found themselves cut off, surrounded, and facing an enemy that moved with impossible coordination. Within 11 hours, the alien garrison commander transmitted a formal surrender. Earth was free. But the war was far from over. Earth was free, but humanity remained in danger. The captured Concord officer Calvor had spoken the truth. The planet-killer weapons were real, and the Concord Council had authorized their use. With their defeat at Earth, they would become even more desperate. 1 week after liberation, the Human Defense Council met in the restored headquarters beneath Geneva. Elaine, now Supreme Admiral of the Human Confederation Fleet, stood before the gathered leaders. "We can't stay on the defensive," she said. "If we wait for them to attack again, they'll eventually succeed. Our only path to survival is to take the fight to them." Admiral Porter, his face showing new scars from the battle for Earth, nodded in agreement. Intelligence confirms they're gathering their forces at these locations. He highlighted 5 systems on the galactic map. The planet killers are being prepared at their manufacturing hub near Epsilon Eridani. Then that's our primary target, Elaine decided. Alan, who had been quiet for most of the meeting, spoke up. I've made a breakthrough with the Phoenix protocol. We can now incorporate hundreds of minds in a single network, not just dozens. He displayed a new interface design, more advanced than previous versions. This will allow us to coordinate our largest assault yet. Lisa Morgan, recently promoted to general, studied the map. If we take their manufacturing hub, we gain 2 advantages. First, we prevent them from building more superweapons. Second, we force them to use their existing planet killers against the captured facility, rather than against our worlds. Steve Harris, who had been appointed Earth Defense Coordinator, raised a concern. What about our colonies? They remain vulnerable while we strike elsewhere. That's why timing is critical, Elaine replied. This operation must be swift and decisive. The plan they developed was bold to the point of recklessness, but humanity had no safer options. They would commit almost their entire fleet to a single massive assault on the Concorde's most heavily defended manufacturing center. 3 days later, the largest human fleet ever assembled prepared for battle. 123 ships, ranging from small attack craft to the massive flagship Defiant, moved into formation. Each vessel carried crew members connected through the expanded Phoenix network. Elaine stood on the Defiant's bridge, feeling the presence of hundreds of minds, joined with her own. The sensation was overwhelming at first, so many thoughts, emotions, and perspectives flowing together. But the human brain proved remarkably adaptable. Within minutes, the chaos settled into a harmonious whole. All ships report ready, Admiral, said her first officer, Jack Collins. Initiate fold jump on my mark, Elaine ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The human fleet vanished from Earth orbit, traveling through fold space to emerge directly within the Epsilon Eridani system. They appeared less than 10,000 kilometers from the massive Concord manufacturing station, a structure the size of a small moon, bristling with defense systems. The Concord defenders reacted quickly, but not quickly enough. The Phoenix-linked human fleet moved with uncanny coordination, each ship anticipating the other's actions perfectly. Where Concord vessels relied on communications and orders, humans simply knew what to do, sharing awareness across the battlefield. Lisa led the first attack wing, targeting the station's outer defenses with surgical precision. Primary weapons, grid disabled, she reported through the Phoenix link. Everyone in the network felt her satisfaction. Concord reinforcements arrived from nearby bases, but found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Human ships seemed to predict their tactics before they executed them, turning ordered formations into chaos. On the Defiant, Alan monitored the Phoenix network. Neural synchronization at 97% efficiency, he reported, far beyond what we achieved at Earth. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, the defending Concord fleet had been annihilated, and the massive manufacturing station was under human control. Casualties were light, 7 ships damaged, 3 destroyed. A miracle, given they had faced nearly twice their number. Elaine walked through the captured station with Lisa and a security team, all still connected through portable Phoenix interfaces. The facility dwarfed anything humans had built, with production capacity to create thousands of warships. We can use this, Lisa said, examining the manufacturing systems. Their technology, their resources, turned against them. First priority is preparing for their counterattack, Elaine replied. They'll deploy the planet killers here rather than risk us holding this facility. She wasn't wrong. Within 2 days, Concord leadership dispatched 3 of their 5 planet killer platforms to Epsilon Eridani. Just as they entered the system, human forces sprung their trap. Ships hidden in the debris field from the previous battle ambushed. The lightly defended superweapons. The Phoenix network proved its worth again. Human pilots operating captured Concord vessels seized all 3 planet killers intact. News of this defeat spread quickly through conquered space, despite the leadership's attempts to control information. For the first time in 17,000 years, the mighty Concord faced an enemy that not only survived their attacks but turned their own weapons against them. Elaine called an emergency meeting on the Defiant. "This changes our strategic position dramatically," she told her commanders. "We now possess the means to destroy worlds." Lisa studied the captured planet killer schematics. "These weapons could eliminate all resistance if we chose to use them." "That's not who we are," Elaine said firmly. "But the Conquered doesn't know that. We'll use them as a deterrent, not as weapons of genocide." She drafted a message to be transmitted to the Concord Council. For every human world threatened, 3 conquered. Homeworlds would face annihilation. The war could end now, with the Conquered's unconditional surrender, or it could escalate beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. While they waited for a response, humanity implemented the next phase of Lisa's plan. Using the quantum neural interfaces, human intelligence specialists infiltrated Conquered communication systems. They bypassed security protocols that would have stopped any conventional attack, their minds working directly with the quantum infrastructure. What they broadcast shook the Conquered to its foundations: footage of human victories, evidence of the Conquered's initial betrayal, testimony from captured officers admitting humanity had posed no threat before the unprovoked attack. For generations, Conquered citizens had been insulated from the true actions of their government. Now they saw everything. The Velhari homeworld erupted in civil unrest first. As the most influential species in the Concord, they had also been the most sheltered from unpleasant truths. Their leaders had claimed the war against humans was defensive, necessary to preserve galactic stability. Now they learned it had begun with a preemptive strike against a peaceful species whose only crime was biological potential. Other worlds followed. Protests spread across the 7 core Concord species, demanding accountability, demanding peace. In the command center of the captured station, now renamed Hope, Elaine received word that the Concord Council was requesting a ceasefire to discuss terms. "They're stalling," Admiral Porter warned, "gathering forces for one final effort." Elaine nodded. "Probably, but every day we wait gives their own people more time to pressure them into genuine negotiations." She turned to Steve Harris, who had arrived from Earth to inspect the captured facility. "Your assessment?" Steve had spent 2 years under Conquered occupation. He knew their methods, their thinking. "They're terrified," he said simply, "not just of our weapons but of what we represent. Change, the end of their dominance. Some will never accept peace." "Then we make ourselves too costly to fight," Elaine decided. "Prepare the fleet for our final offensive." 5 years after the Concord's first attack on Earth, representatives from all species involved in the conflict gathered aboard the neutral station Harmony Deep. The massive space habitat, located at the border between human and Concord space, had been constructed specifically for this historic meeting. Elaine Summers led the human delegation. She wore the formal white uniform of the Human Confederation, the organization that had evolved from the emergency councils of the war years. Beside her stood Alan, Lisa, Steve, and Admiral Porter, the team that had guided humanity from near extinction to this moment. The Conquered representatives entered from the opposite side of the circular chamber. 7 aliens, 1 from each founding species. The Velhari representative, a tall blue-skinned figure named Learthal, stepped forward first. "We are prepared to present our terms," Learthal announced. Elaine raised an eyebrow. "Your terms?" "Yes. The terms of our surrender." A murmur ran through the human delegation. This was unexpected. They had come prepared to negotiate a peace treaty, not to receive a surrender. Learthal continued, "The Concord Council has voted. After 17,000 years, the Galactic Concord will be dissolved. Each member species will negotiate separate agreements with humanity." The terms they offered went beyond anything humans had hoped for. The Conquered would withdraw from all human territories. They would provide reparations to rebuild damaged colonies. They would share all their technological and scientific knowledge freely. In return, they asked only for humanity's promise not to use the planet-killer weapons. When the Concord delegation finished speaking, Elaine requested a private consultation with her team. "Is this real?" Lisa asked once they were alone. "After all this fighting, they're just giving up?" Admiral Porter looked suspicious. "It could be a trap." Alan shook his head. "The civil unrest on their worlds is worse than we thought. Their people want peace. Their leadership is being replaced." Steve, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "They're afraid of us. That's what this is about. Not just our weapons or technology, but what we represent." Elaine considered this. What happens after we sign? Do we become what they feared? Conquerors, expanding across the galaxy? "That's not who we are," Lisa said firmly. After discussion, the human delegation returned to the main chamber. Elaine addressed the Concord representatives. "We accept your surrender, with conditions of our own. First, justice. Those responsible for the initial attack on Earth must face trial. Second, verification. We will maintain our defensive capabilities until treaty terms are fully implemented." Learthal nodded slowly. "These terms are acceptable." 1 month later, the Treaty of Sol was signed. The document that ended the war also ended the 17,000-year dominance of the Concord. In its place would emerge a new galactic order, with humanity as a major power. In the years that followed, Elaine faced criticism from some quarters for her next decision, mercy. Despite calls for revenge from those who had lost homes and loved ones, she implemented a policy of reconciliation. War criminals faced justice, but there would be no collective punishment of conquered species. Instead, humanity established fair tribunals. They offered integration to former enemies who wished to live under human protection. They shared medical aid and food with worlds suffering from the collapse of conquered supply chains. This unexpected compassion from a species that had fought with such terrifying efficiency created a complex legacy. Across the galaxy, advanced civilizations studied human history, particularly the Conquered War. Military academies on 1,000 worlds analyzed the Phoenix Protocol and humanity's improbable victory. Diplomats referenced the Treaty of Sol when mediating disputes. 10 years after the peace, Elaine stood on the observation deck of the new Human Confederation headquarters on Luna. Earth glowed blue and green below, fully recovered from the war. The scars of Concord bombardment had healed, cities rebuilt, forests regrown. Alan joined her, holding a data pad. "The Phoenix Protocol has been fully adapted for civilian use," he reported. "Neural networks are revolutionizing everything from medicine to education." "Any military applications I should worry about?" Elaine asked. "Nothing beyond what we already know. The technology seems to work best with human brains. Other species can use it, but not with our level of integration." She nodded, thoughtful. "That's why they feared us from the beginning. They saw the potential." "Speaking of potential," Alan said, changing the subject, "Lisa's expedition to the Galactic Core has made contact with 3 previously unknown civilizations, all pre-spaceflight but showing promise." "And Steve?" "Still running the diplomatic corps. He's on the Velari homeworld now, finalizing their membership in the Confederation." Elaine smiled at that. Former enemies, now allies. It wasn't perfect. Nothing involving so many different species and interests could be. But it was better than endless war. 40 years after the war, the galaxy had transformed. The Human Confederation spanned 57 star systems, with member species including former conquered races who had chosen to join humanity's more egalitarian alliance. Their diplomatic corps worked tirelessly to replace fear with respect, yet they maintained the most advanced military force known to exist, a silent reminder of capability. Dr. Alan Summers, in the autobiography he published on the 50th anniversary of First Contact, perhaps summarized it best. "We never wanted the galaxy to fear us. We simply refused to be exterminated. That the two became indistinguishable says more about the galaxy than it does about humanity." By the centenary of First Contact, human expansion had slowed deliberately. Elaine, now in her final years, had established principles that guided policy long after her time. Never repeat the Concorde's mistakes. Never become what you defeated. Never forget the cost of peace. Yet still, when diplomats of other species met in quiet moments behind closed doors, they whispered humanity's name, not always in fear but always with respect, and sometimes with a touch of awe. The greatest testament to humanity's victory wasn't conquest or domination, it was the long peace that followed, the sharing of knowledge, the raising up of younger species rather than subjugating them. Where the Concorde had ruled through force and fear for 17 millennia, the human confederation sought to build something more lasting, a community of equals, bound by mutual interest rather than intimidation. Children across 1,000 worlds learned the history of the Concorde War, how a single species faced extinction and emerged victorious. Some focused on the technological innovations, others on the military strategy. But the wisest teachers emphasized the aftermath, how humans chose mercy when vengeance was within reach. The war so catastrophic, the galaxy had once whispered humanity's name in fear became, in time, the reason they spoke it with hope. After all, if humans could forgive those who tried to exterminate them, perhaps anything was possible.